So here we are looking at the back end of my Harley-Davidson Servi-Car, which has seen very, very little action or riding this year. The front brake has been sticking, but then I got wrapped up in other things, and well, you know how time goes. Anyway, let's see what we find when we pull it out. You know, the Servi-Car has a rather large trunk, and once I opened it up, I realized, of course, that, you know, some things that I need are in here, and some things not. After I removed the tennis rackets and things, I'm down to pretty much manageable, although I do have to search through it. I'm sure there's other stuff in here. But I really like, and somewhere I have another one of these leather gloves. It was originally from CN, which is, yeah, CN Rail, but also CN Telecommunications. The gloves usually came in pairs, and they are really nice, soft, magical leather. In the middle, of course, is my sort of biker hat, but on the front of it, I have a tribute to a student from the school that I work at, because unfortunately, a few years after graduation, he died, and it was sad. The other thing I have next to it are some ski goggles, and one would say, why do you have ski goggles in there? But you know, there are times, if it starts to rain, if you're stuck out somewhere, that some kind of goggles are pretty good. And somewhere I do have like biker goggles, and you know, sunglasses are okay too, but these ski goggles are very handy. They're handy if it's windy, they're handy if it's rainy, and even, I suppose, I've not really worn them when it's sunny, but they do have a nice tint to them. So, we are continuing to explore my Servi-Car. Stay tuned. We're still in the trunk of my Servi-Car, and here is something that every time I see it, I'm still stunned, and that is, it's a picture, and also on the back there's a recipe for cookies that was given out at the funeral for a great man named John Rennie, who died far too young. He came down with pneumonia, and you know, medical people are great things, they are. But sometimes when you go in and you're bigger than you should be and overweight and such, they sometimes focus in on all kinds of things that really aren't happening or aren't complications, and they should just forget that you are larger than life and see what's what. And from what I understand, he had pneumonia, but they were concerned about his weight and his diabetes and his this and his that. They never did give him antibiotics, and sure enough, the pneumonia killed him. Very strange. Some years before, I ended up in the hospital, but I was sick, and I was sick. I felt terrible, awful. So I ended up there, same hospital, and it took them a couple of days to figure out what was wrong with me, but thankfully, in the 2 days that they didn't know what was wrong with me, they did not manage to not do something that needed to be done or do something that didn't need to be done. Initially, they told me they thought I had blood clots in my lungs, which I thought, I really don't think so. And in the end, after taking all kinds of blood and doing all kinds of other things, they found that I had pneumonia and mononucleosis together in one messy mess of a package. So anyway, thankfully, I did not die before they figured this out. It's funny, at one point, I remember the first night I was in there, and they didn't really have a room, so I was living in what was called the suture room, even though they didn't need to sew me up at all. This doctor came in, and she looked at me, and she looked at things, and was trying to do whatever, and she just had this, I don't know, not look of disgust, but just of like, kind of like a harumph. And she said, "You are not presenting typically." And I didn't know exactly what to say, because, you know, I was sick. Oh, I was sick. Anyway, I miss John, and I always carry this this in the back of my trunk, so John is always riding with me. So now we're looking at the back of the kind of postcard that was handed out at John's funeral, and it says that John loved to bake and such. Anyway, here is the recipe for his famous oatmeal cookies. And you know, I hate it when people put up PowerPoints and then they read everything on the screen, so I'm not going to do that, because I know that if you're really interested in making these cookies, I'm just trying to get a little closer, that you can pause this on YouTube and you can write down the directions and you can write down the instructions. Sorry, you can write down the ingredients and the, as it says here, the method. So there, I'll get real close. There, this is a good time to stop, and if you want to make some great cookies, here it is. This recipe came from John's grandma. It did. And here's another shot of John. John, he had a Servi-Car, but he eventually switched this bike here, unfortunately. Oh, he loved this bike. It was stolen out of his garage, and then he ended up getting a Decker. So, anyway. So, enjoy the cookies, and we'll carry on searching through and taking a trip down memory lane. One thing about a Servi-Car is it has a large trunk, and I found the lid of it a great place to put stickers, so I would gather them from time to time. It's been a long time since I've added anything, probably 20 or more years, maybe even more than that, but I always like this righteous ruler. So we'll just take a quick trip around here. Most of them are Harley things. Here's one from Kingston, 1978, when I ended up bowling in the Ontario Winter Games. You know, all kinds of things and memories and such. And doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. They're looking a little battered. They have what we call patina now. And yes, I am in Ontario. I am. Now this is, it's funny, this here, there used to be a music station in Toronto named 680, not 6, CFTR, 680 AM, and they did top 40 music, and they had these stickers if you put them on your car, and they saw it, and there were various people from the station who would keep an eye. They would write down your plate number, and out of the blue, they might announce that you were a winner. They might. And I knew a fellow who, through computers, I knew a fellow who was very big there and a disc jockey there. I still know him. So anyway, I put this sticker on here because, well, it was a grand time. Now that station is no longer doing top 40. They are now 680 News. Every 30 minutes, they do the news again. I don't remember what this one says. Oh, sex lessons available. First lesson for, oh yes. What do we have? Barnett equipped, which of course there's no such thing on this. Oh yes, don't smoke around the trike, it might have oil leaking around. No smoking. Here's another Harley sticker. Here's one that has tremendous patina. I'm not even sure what it says. Now, of course, I'm into computers as well, so there's something from my Commodore 64 days, which never really ended. And another Harley sticker. And this was, you know, the typical Harley logo thing. And I think I had to put double-sided tape on. Whatever I did, it must have worked. And of course, we don't smoke. There's another Harley thing. There's more patina. This bracket is for the thing that's supposed to hold this trunk open, which of course isn't there. I did buy a replacement, but something about the replacement, and it was a reproduction thing, wasn't quite right, or something was missing, I'm not sure. So anyway, I haven't quite put it in. Someday perhaps I will. I'm going to go over to this shining moment. 1985, Toronto Blue Jays champions. Well, that was the year from what I remember, that they were doing really well, and then they fell apart and blew it at the end. I think that was maybe the first year in the playoffs. They were up 2-1 or 3-1 or whatever. Anyway, they blew it. They did. So it was actually the only time in my life that I ever got drunk and sick, because they had won this game. It was all good, but I really didn't drink much, so I did drink a little bit, but I mixed different things, and that was, yes, I was sick. So everybody has to do that once. I did it in 1985, never again. Thank you, Toronto Blue Jays. Anyway, that's enough of the lid of the trike. I think I'm actually going to pull this outside and see what's what. Here is a sign. I always have meant to put it up in the garage, but I haven't. And once again, I'm not going to do the presentation thing of reading everything on it. You can pause, you can read, you can enjoy. It's time to pull the trike outside. I have made it into the garage, which was a little more challenging. See, I mean, I have too much stuff. Anyway, there was a table kind of in the way that I usually can slide by. Anyway, I had moved one table out. I didn't really want to move the second table out, but I did manage to get in here okay. So here is the Harley-Davidson Police Special speedometer, odometer, and all that stuff. It has not moved in a long time. Why has it not moved in a long time? Well, yes, I have not had it out for a while. But also, the speedometer drive cable broke some years ago. But don't worry, one of these days I'll replace it. Most of you probably know this. This is the shifter on this bike, or trike as it were. Yes, it's suicide shift. And I always park it in gear, and then I swap it back into neutral before, well, I'd like to fire it up and push it out, but I'm not doing that today. I'm just going to push it out. So, we're in neutral, it's time to push. So, I have indeed rolled this gently outside. It's funny, you know, as I got it out okay, everything was fine. I moved the shifter, there's the shifter, to 1. So, oh yeah, we're in gear. And of course, see that it doesn't always go into gear, so no real worries. I always double check, but as I went to give it a little push backwards, saying that, oh yeah, it's in gear, it wasn't really in gear, and it tried to kind of run away, but, you know, it wasn't bad. Look, there is a spooky man. Anyway, so we're out, and I'm just going to have a look. Oh, there's one thing here. This button. What do you suppose this button does? It's been a while. Sounds like the battery could use a little juice. As I say, I have not had this out. It has been sad. So, onward with the explorations. Well, here we are, looking over the Servi-Car. I haven't tried to start it, but you know, the last time I had it going, it just didn't sound quite right, so I was just poking around gently, and the head bolt right in the center of the frame is loose. This is not good. I mean, there are other head bolts and such, but certainly they all work together. So I really can't get a wrench in there quite in its current. Well, there's just no room, so I'm going to have to do some undo the seat.
That's a beautiful motorcycle.
Oh, thank you. I can't disagree with you. You have a lovely dog.
Thank you.
And you two are prized. Anyway, so I'm going to have to see about that. It is very loose right now. Like, it's loose. I never knew that, so I'm going to have to do something about that. So we continue. Well, I'm going to turn the ignition, or unlock the ignition. Here are my keys. There's an assortment of things on here, including keys for the Trike. This bike was part of the, well, it was a brigade called the Green Hornets, so I don't know if that was their official name, but they rode around on these yellow Harleys, Trikes, and I guess they could do it all year round. And they were called the Green Hornets. They wore green uniforms, and they were parking control people, so if you were illegally parked, they would sting you with a ticket. Now, the Metropolitan Toronto Police is no longer the Metro Toronto Police. It's just Toronto Police Service, because we did have an amalgamation at some point. So, but anyway, as they were amalgamating, somebody who I knew through my work gave me this key fob, and I decided it would be good to go with the Trike and, well, my other keys. So I'm going to unlock the ignition. So, as I say, it's time to unlock the ignition. Right now, it does not turn. So I flip this up, I turn the key, I pull the key out, I set it on the seat, and now this will turn. And, oh yeah, it's got some power in there. But I really don't want to even give it a try now, because the head bolt, she is loose. So I'm not going to try and start it now. Well, you know what, maybe I'll just give it a little push without trying to start it, to just see how the battery status is. But before I can do that, I need to put this into neutral. I hope it doesn't roll away. So, my foot is on the clutch. Oh, that went pretty well. So we're neutral, but I gotta be careful, because I'm on a slight hill here in the driveway. Let's see how much juice we have. So here's the button. I'm missing the extra button. This is the turn signal. I'll push on that for a second. Okay. So we have some power. That's encouraging. Anyway, I'm going to push this. Now, the starter generally, it doesn't go on the first crack. It does not. So it might click. Oh, it's spun. Okay, so we do have enough power to start it. Now, I'm not sure if you could hear that, but I could hear kind of a sucking noise that sounded like more sucking that should be going on, and I think that's because the head bolt is loose. Let's see about that. I believe I mentioned that the regular support for the trunk is not there. So for many, many years, probably as long as I've had the Trike, I use a golf club. I think it might be a 5-iron. It had a good length, it holds it up nice. Now one thing of course is, if you're at a gas station and it's windy, don't leave the trunk open. Only once has this happened to me, but the trunk came, you know, flipping down upon me as I was filling with gas. I don't want that to happen again. So, a 5-iron will probably do you well. So when you have an old motorcycle like this, carrying tools are important, but I mean, you can't carry, you know, everything. But here is a look at my accessories that I carry. And most everything on this thing is either 7/16, there's not many of that, 1/2, or 9/16. So somewhere in here, or a screwdriver of some sort. I'm sure I have perhaps more things than I require. Oh, yeah, that's there's the emergency exhaust repair system. Aha! Okay, so here with a wrench, 7/16 and 3/8. So with that, I should be able to release the front of the seat and have a look in here. Onward. So here we are, and this is the bolt that holds the seat. This is not the easiest thing to do with one hand, but anyway, I like these sort of sideways ratchet things because they fit on and they do magical things. There's just one problem. I think I'm tightening, maybe, and also the bolt on the other side is turning. Alright, I gotta look for another wrench. Alright, back over my little toolkit here, and I would really like to find another 7/16 inch wrench. So there are some things on the bike that's 5/8 inch. I have lots of things here. Oh dear. Oh, there's a 3/8. Oh, this is cool. It's a Craftsman 3/8. It's got a socket on one end and an open end on the other. But I don't need 3/8. I need 7/16. So, as much as I'm doing it, I have a little pair of pliers here. I'm going to try it. Alrighty. Well, I hate using pliers because they don't fit nice, but this was not on a really tight thing, so it did come off okay. So now that the seat is up, I am hopeful that I can get down onto that head bolt through the oil lines. But it's not going to be easy. But we'll see what we can do. Well, I'm kind of on the bolt. Kind of. I'm not as down as I would like. The frame is actually getting in the way, but I really don't think I have to, you know, alter the, or like undo the motor to get at this thing. Anyway, so here we have two socket extensions. It's a 9/16, and I'm going to see if this wants to tighten in. I'm hoping that nothing terrible has happened, like it didn't come loose and then rattle and ruin the threads. I'm hoping that would be, like, catastrophic. Well, here I am, and I must say this isn't going particularly well, because I've got these extensions and everything on, and I'm turning, but I don't believe anything is happening. Perhaps it is that, because I really can't get at it right, maybe the bolt is not able to be lined up properly. There is no end to this. It's very hard to even get a good look at this. Well, anyway, right now I'm kneeling, which is never pretty. And I'm going to try to finger this bolt and see if I can get it started. I don't have great faith in this, but at least maybe it'll line up properly. We shall see. I would like to do this and record it, but there's no hope. And you know what? My knees are hurting. Well, I've managed to finger this bolt enough so that I can almost get it out and have a look at it, but I'm still kind of stuck. So there is the offending head bolt, not the first one we can see, but the second one. And I've been turning it with my fingers, and it is not going in. So I am concerned. I have no idea how long this was loose for, but I don't remember hearing. It was only the last time I fired it up, I was like, something just doesn't sound right. Anyway, if you have any comments or suggestions, I'm all ears. I really don't want to think that I have to take the engine out to do this. Anyway, I'm tinkering, I'm pondering, but any input would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. So, I am pretty much back where I started. I just tightened up the seat bolts again, because I'm not getting anywhere and I don't have time to dig into this further. Anyway, as I said before, comments or suggestions are most welcome. You have no idea. Thank you. We'll be in touch. Stay between the lines. Bye for now.